The PlayStation 2 is my favorite console of all time. Despite that being a completely honest statement, there's something disingenuous about it. Taken literally, it would mean that the hardware, the console platform itself, is my favorite of all time. While that may have been true when it came out, time has only made these old, all-time favorite platforms barely usable. The PS2 specifically mostly outputs a max resolution of 480i, which was considered somewhat outdated even during its lifespan. Its most modern supported output method is RGB/component, which some modern TVs don't even support anymore. I have mine hooked up to an old, small, heavy PVM for those very reasons. On anything slightly more modern, games played on the PS2 look horrible. Not only that, but if you have a third-party game that was released on any other member platform of its generation, you're almost certainly playing the worst version. Sonic Heroes, for example, is notoriously buggy compared to its Xbox and GameCube counterparts. Resident Evil 4, while playable, lost a lot of its visual fidelity in the porting process. In fact, the director of Resident Evil 4 was against porting his game to the PlayStation 2 at all because he hated it so much. One of the main reasons being that it was an absolute pain to develop for, a sentiment shared with anyone that ever worked on it. Developers only got used to it because they kinda had to. It was, and still is, the most successful platform ever created. But why? Why is the weakest console of its generation, with its awful ports, its convoluted and outdated hardware, its basically unchanged controller from its predecessor, why is the PlayStation 2 the most successful platform of all time? Well, you probably already know the answer. It's not the console. It's the library. The games. If emulation was in a better state, or if the PS4 actually took my discs, I wouldn't need to have this whole setup. The PS2 itself would be chasing dust bunnies in the closet. Back in the day, you didn't buy a console for its hardware. It's rare when any generation sees the most powerful console as the most successful. People used to buy consoles to play games. Games you could only play on that console. What was magical about the PS2 is that the library was so huge and diverse, you were basically guaranteed to find something you would enjoy. While ports did exist, as I mentioned, they were still rather rare. Consoles all had completely different hardware, so porting took a lot of work. It was just financially too risky for most companies to port games like Stretch Panic to other platforms. No matter how outdated or inferior the PS2 itself actually was, it just didn't matter when it had a library of exclusive games that big and diverse. Now the PS4, on the other hand... Remember how I said people used to buy consoles to play games? Well, that's not exactly the case anymore. People don't buy consoles to play games. They buy consoles to play games first. While the porting process used to be rather difficult and risky for developers, nowadays it's so easy and cheap thanks to the more ubiquitous hardware and engine market that you'd be stupid not to have your game on every platform you can get it on. As a result, third-party exclusive games are basically dead. Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, all once iconic PlayStation series, have all had their more recent titles available on every platform they can run on. Oh, scratch that. Technically, the most recent Final Fantasy game is Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is only available and playable on the PlayStation 4! Until March 2021. See, this is what I mean. Consoles still have exclusives, especially Nintendo ones. They're just all first-party exclusives, meaning they're all developed in-house or by companies the console manufacturers are parents of. This is why the PS3 has so much less exclusives than the PS2, and why the PS4 has even less than that. PS2 may have had a lot of amazing exclusives, but only a small fraction were actually made by Sony themselves. Third-party developers aren't stupid enough to ignore what is effectively free money by porting their games to any platform they can. However, they also aren't stupid enough to say no if Sony, MS, or Nintendo hands them a giant check and begs them to make their game come to their platform first. And so we enter the age of timed exclusives, where nothing's ever really exclusive anymore. All of Microsoft's games are on PC, and heck, so are some of PlayStation's now. But what about the exclusives the PlayStation 4 does have? Well, while there are some notable exceptions, a lot of them are really safe and, to me personally, boring. They all follow these open-world action templates that got old to me after Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and they do little to differentiate from each other outside of narrative premise. The key to the PS2, the diversity of exclusives, is not something that can be found on the PlayStation 4. And that'd be okay if it was the best place to play as advertised, but it isn't. For one, the store sucks. The search function is so bad, dude, like you have no idea unless you've used it. When you do a search, you can't actually filter by games, movies, genre, DLC, whatever. You have to go into the specific games or themes section. Oh, but once you're there, you can't actually search under that classification. Sorry, idiot. You got the filters now, but you lost the search. So now you either hope it's new and filter by release date, or pick up your Bible and start reading, my man, because you're going to be holding down for a long time. And that's assuming it even is on the store. Half the time I have to search for a theme or demo on the PSN website because the storefront on the console itself is so slow to update. It also lacks basic features like gifting or proper refunds. You can't try a game on PSN for a couple minutes to an hour and return it if you don't care for it. Nah, if you start downloading the game at all, you have voided your refund chance. Maybe that's why you can't gift to a friend. If they end up hating it, you just wasted your money with no way to get it back. Even outside of the store, stuff like data management sucks. You don't get free cloud saves like Steam or Xbox, nope. Gotta subscribe to PS Plus for that privilege. Oh, and say you're having issues with the DLC of a game, like I was with Resident Evil 7, and want to reinstall it to see if it solves the issue. Well, if you dare to install DLC on a game, the only way to delete that DLC is delete the whole game. No DLC management beyond seeing what you own. Based, Sony. Really based. Suffice to say, the PS4 overall has been a massive disappointment to me. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good console. It has tons of developer support, its controller is comfortable and has some neat features, and its UI actually works, which is more than I can say for the little experience I have with the Xboxes, or Steam Big Picture Mode. Boy, that's a video. I still catch myself using it when I want to have that comfy, simple console experience I missed so much from the PS2 days. In fact, I think that's why the PS4, despite all the issues I've just mentioned, is on its way to PS2 level success. The PS4 isn't the best console of all time, but for this generation at least, it is definitely the safest. What I mean by that is, between the underpowered Switch, the mishandled Xbox, and the frustrating PC, the PS4 sits in the middle as this all-rounder. It doesn't have the high points the others do, but it doesn't have the low points either. It has less features than the Xbox, but more than the Switch. It has less exclusives than the Switch, but more than the Xbox, etc. It's safe, and that's comforting. It makes you feel like you can trust it. Still, the problem with the safest choice is it can often be the most boring. Boring is not a word I would use to sum up PlayStation 1, 2, or even 3, yet I can't think of a better word to describe the PS4. As things are, I see no reason for the PS5 to be any more exciting either. PlayStation doesn't need to be better than what they are. They're doing perfectly fine without exciting people like me who want risk-taking, diverse exclusives and innovative hardware with forward-thinking features. They're doing just fine regardless if their store sucks or if they charge for online. They can stoop down to their competitors' level as much as they want because, hey, they didn't pull the trigger first, so that makes them innocent, I guess. PlayStation won't be better anytime soon because they don't need to be. But PlayStation should be better because I know they can be.